Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. It's quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And he used to say, "Hey, Greg Morgan," and he used to say, "Please call me Greg," and I wouldn't do it.
Good mic work commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cell.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good mic work commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday, everyone. What's going on? And welcome back to your Winged Eagle podcast for August 6th, 2022. Hope you guys are having a great Saturday, and thank you for being here 30 minutes earlier than we normally go live. I got a really busy week at work this week. I got a lot going on, so in order to get a full podcast out today to you guys, I needed to go up just a little bit early, so I appreciate everybody adjusting their schedules to be here on time. One quick thing right off the bat, I did notice during our countdown screen and our intro, I did have a quick service interruption that just stopped. Of course, we dealt with this a little bit on SummerSlam, but it turned out to be a non-issue. So hopefully that was just a one-time thing and we're all good. I still need to make a phone call to my internet provider just to see if there's anything that they can do. We have great internet here in this house, but every now and then I experience a little bit of an interruption, so hopefully that will not happen again. But every time we do have any sort of an interruption, it only lasts like 15 to 20 seconds and I'm right back up. So if for any reason you see me pause or stop or freeze, please be patient. I'm really sorry about that, but it should pick right back up and we should be good to go. So again, I apologize for the possible interruptions as we go through here, but we also thought we were going to have this problem on Monday, and we had no interruptions at all. So hopefully we will be just fine, but I hope you guys are having a great Saturday, a great weekend. We got a loaded episode here. This will probably be a good solid 2-hour podcast with lots to discuss, including a big return last night on SmackDown, Karrion Kross and Scarlett making their return to the company and really illustrating how... Okay, according to this, we are back up, but I'm sorry. Right in the first minute of this podcast, we're already having this problem. I'm really sorry. I wish I had an answer for everybody. I have no idea what's going on. I have great internet, very strong stuff, good computer and everything, so why this is happening, I have no idea. Please bear with me. I'm so sorry. If we have to restart the stream, we will, but hopefully this will be just a couple of times and we'll be smooth sailing. I'm the only one in the house. I'm the only one using the internet. There's nothing else going on or that should be a problem here. So anyway, I don't know. But like I was saying before I got briefly interrupted there regarding Karrion Kross and Scarlett's return to WWE last night on SmackDown, it really appears that Triple H is not going to be playing any games at all, and this could just be the tip of the iceberg, and we're going to see a lot more returns in the future, maybe even as early as this Monday night, because another big announcement that was made last night on SmackDown is that the women's tag team titles are coming back. A tournament kicks off on Monday, and we already had the report last week that Sasha Banks and Naomi have in fact reconciled with WWE and will be turning back up, although nothing confirmed, and they haven't done that yet. Maybe Monday could be a good place for that, and they both made an appearance today in Chicago at that Comic-Con event and signing autographs and stuff. So we'll be talking about that as well. We're going to talk about more about Triple H's regime, some of the new changes we could see coming down the road. We're also going to be talking about Vince McMahon officially being removed from the internal roster page, and some of those dirty words like wrestler, wrestling, title belt, hospital, shit like that could be being used again regularly on WWE TV, which is really good. There's also some reports that WWE might in fact be separating the two world titles again in the future, taking one or both of them off of Roman Reigns, and Karrion Kross could play into that. We're also going to talk about MJF. Where the hell is he? And the latest going on with him, and according to a report that is by Fightful Select. We'll get into a little bit of that. Also want to talk about the press release from AEW this week that basically announced the expansion of talent relations and development team. A lot of in-house promotions taking place with Sonjay Dutt, Pat Buck, Tony Schiavone, QT Marshall, and a few others increasing their roles in the company behind the scenes, which is good to give them a little bit of structure back there, because we have heard about a little bit some trouble and inconsistencies behind the scenes trying to get stuff done. So that's good that they are working on that. Also, the video game is coming out soon. AEW's video game. We'll talk a little bit about that because they did release a trailer involving Britt Baker and Tony Schiavone. We'll also talk about Ric Flair's last match numbers, pay-per-view buy rates and attendance, things like that are coming in for that pretty impressive show. Some good news on Hacksaw Jim Duggan. We'll do a quick look back at last week's Raw and the great rating they scored, and a look ahead to this week's Raw. Dynamite on Wednesday was a phenomenal show. Just got a chance to look at that show in its entirety yesterday and liked just about everything that I saw. So we'll do a brief recap of Dynamite since we were not here to do the watch-along on Wednesday. And also, we'll talk about last night's Rampage, and Battle of the Belts is tonight, probably about an hour or two after we wrap up this podcast. That show will air. Actually, no, it'll probably be, about an hour after we're done with the podcast here. The Battle of the Belts will be airing. I think it's an hour-long special. The spoilers are out. I will not reveal any of the spoilers, but we will run through the match card tonight, and that show is at 8 o'clock Eastern. So, it'll probably be just about 30 minutes after we wrap up this podcast here, Battle of the Belts. And also, we will talk a little bit about last night's SmackDown, but honestly, SmackDown last night was not that great aside from the Karrion Kross return, because that was pretty surprising. It kind of came out of nowhere, which is what I like, because there was already the leaked reports that Kross's name was being discussed internally, and a lot of people felt that he probably would be coming back. So all right, I think we're back. Again, I'm sorry for this. So freaking sorry. I don't know what the hell's going on. But anyway, we're back. For those of you patient enough to sit through these little 20-second interruptions, I'm going to have to go through and really edit this audio before I push it out to the podcast feed later on tonight for the audio crowd. But in terms of the YouTube crowd, I'm going to get on the ball here and figure out what's going on with this internet. I apologize. But like I was saying again before I got interrupted, not sure where the freeze happened, but I was talking about Karrion Kross, the rumors of his return kind of already being leaked out earlier on in the day. So the fact that WWE didn't waste time with that and hit us with him with a surprise coming out in the Roman and Drew segment, possibly maybe even getting involved in the main event scene, which it looks like they're going to do with him, is pretty incredible. He doesn't have the suspenders. He doesn't have the gimp mask. He's got Scarlett with him. Looks like they want to present him like they originally intended when he was in NXT prior to him moving up, and that's all really good news. And I like the surprises that Triple H's regime is giving us, and I really feel like we're going to see more, and we could see stuff like Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, Johnny Gargano, a lot of guys that are currently not with anybody that could be making their way back to the company. So we'll talk a lot about that today, and you guys can let me know if you have any other suggestions or ideas for talent that could be making their way back to the company. So we're going to rewind here in a minute and start with the top of the news, but I just want to let you guys know what was on the menu for today, and I'll go over here to the chat and say hello to everybody, and we will get rocking and rolling. I also want to let you guys know we have a big watch-along plan for tomorrow, WWE Fully Loaded 2000, one of my favorite pay-per-views ever. The link to that is in the description below. We're going to watch that tomorrow night. The only problem is we're going to be going head-to-head with that Lex Luger doc on A&E, because I usually don't watch that until later on. When Elizabeth comes home, we'll watch that and knock it out together Sunday night on the DVR, so I will not be watching that live. Unfortunately, we will be going head-to-head with that, but I figured most of those A&E docs, most fans don't watch those live anyway, so it shouldn't do any damage to us. Everybody will get a chance to see the Luger stuff, and I'll talk about the Luger doc probably next week whenever I'm able to make it up here, because I got another busy week again next week. But that'll be tomorrow night. That should be a fun one. So if you go down to the description right now, you can click that link, save it for tomorrow, and join us. And I'll tell you what, by tomorrow night, I better figure out this internet thing, because I can ill afford any eruptions tomorrow. But even if we have that, we'll deal with it, because that's what the timer is for. So join us tomorrow for that. I want to thank George Morris dropping in the $5 super chat right off the bat. Hey, Greg, how are you doing, and how is Bub? WWE still sucks. What happened to SummerSlam 1990, and have you watched any of the A&E documentaries, Lex Luger? Yeah, I just mentioned the Luger one is on tomorrow. I have watched them all. I've watched the Bellas even. I wasn't going to watch them, but then I decided I'd watch it. It was pretty good. And I watched the Kurt Angle one last week, which I really thought was good, that actually prompted Elizabeth and I to watch the Foxcatcher movie, which I wasn't even aware of that whole situation. I don't know how I missed this story or forgot about it, or just had no recollection of it. But we watched that movie that was starring Steve Carell and Channing Tatum and all that stuff. Super gnarly and dark. But SummerSlam 1990 will be coming. We might hit that the week after. So I'm going to do SummerSlam 1990 sometime in the month of August. But unfortunately for me, not only am I dealing with my busiest time of the year at work, my boss had a baby 2 days ago. So my kind of responsibilities have increased a lot, and I'm really busy. I put in a long-ass day yesterday and got a pretty busy one ahead of me tonight as well. And next week's going to be a little choppy. I already know that I'm not going to be here for a Raw review, and I'm not going to be here for a Dynamite watch-along either. So mic drops will be hitting the channel next week for sure. Other than that, I might have to try to come up here and get a quick news video done if anything crazy is happening. But other than that, next week's going to be really hard for me to get up to do anything specifically until next Saturday. But the channel will have some action on it, and there will be some content hitting it in some form this week while I'm getting my ass kicked at work. So thank you for that again, George. I also want to thank Spaz Phoenix, who was here with like a $14 super chat earlier on before we went live here, just saying that he wished us the best, and he's attending the Destiny show in Toronto, I guess an indie show that he is currently at right now. So Spaz was unable to join us, but he did drop in some support earlier on, which was very nice. Good to see everybody here. I'm going to kind of keep all of the shout-outs and stuff to a minimum, because I'm really paranoid about the internet interruptions, and I want to try to get out as much material as we can, just in case anything crazy happens. But good to see my monkey wrenches as well, and Rodrigo and Sean and Hawizi and Tatanani. We got Jet the Hawk and Deshaun and David Brown. What's up? Big J, Hassan, Alexander, Angie Law, and Ronnie. I got lots of friends in here. That's great. John Yachiro, Power Spin, Andy, Harris, Trey, Paul, JL and Steven Scott chiming in with $10. Thank you very much, my friend. Hey, good mic work with Triple H in charge now. Can you see maybe a team like Demolition going into the Hall of Fame? Remember, they didn't have a good send-off last time they were in LA at WrestleMania 7. Yeah, I think at the time, I mean, that was a terrible send-off. I mean, Demolition was pretty much unbelievable. Anyway, it happened again. Anyway, in the middle of my interruption, I was responding to Steven Scott's super chat, talking about Demolition and how the team really crumbled after Bill Eadie's injury and bringing Crush in, and then the LOD came in, or Road Warriors came in around the same time, setting up what would have been a great dream match, but WWE really dropped the ball on all of that, and the WrestleMania 7 match was largely forgettable. And they were my third favorite tag team in the WWE of all time, behind the Hearts and the Bulldogs, and Demolition absolutely deserves to go into the Hall of Fame. Whether or not Triple H will be the determining factor there, I have no idea. I don't know how many times Demolition's name has been brought up when it comes to future inductions. I have no idea. So it depends on how much they are on WWE's radar. But Bill Eadie has suffered a lot of health problems over the years. He is still alive. It would be great to get Demolition into the Hall of Fame while they are still both walking around on this earth. And maybe, really, really soon is the time to get that done. I would love to see it happen. But I'm not sure if, with Triple H taking over for WWE and all of the things currently on his plate, with, having 2 jobs, talent relations, head of creative, running TV every week, and, just trying to man the ship. I'm not sure if Hall of Fame guys really for the next couple of years are really on his mind right now. So that just depends, Steven. But yeah, maybe with Triple H in charge, Demolition can go in. I think one or both of them were a part of that concussion lawsuit, which did blacklist a lot of talent from WWE. But, I suppose it's possible that we could see them go in. I hope so. And yeah, maybe Canada's got something to do with my hacking here. And it sucks too, because we got a decent amount of people here in the chat. I would really appreciate a thumbs up and a like on this video if you don't mind. And again, profusely apologizing. We got our shit together here on this channel. We got good equipment, we got good internet and everything, and we really try to produce high quality content for you guys here. But unfortunately, we have had a couple of internet breaks during the live stream, and unfortunately, that's just totally out of my hands. So I'm really, really sorry about that. It pisses me off. But anyway, we got to get into some wrestling news here. Let me hit this one last super chat before we do. Zach Goller, appreciate $5 from you, my friend. Do you see a situation where Roman wrestles twice at the Clash to split up the 2 belts? Yes, I do. Maybe not at the Clash, but I see a situation arising like that to get the 2 titles off of Roman. And now that you have kind of introduced Karrion Kross into the fold, you got to wonder if we see some sort of a triple threat match for perhaps one of Roman's titles. And then Kross or Drew can take the pin, getting the belt off of Roman, keeping his undefeated streak intact, and also him remaining possibly the Universal Champion to try to get as long of a run with that belt as possible, since he's now had it for 2 years. So if you get the WWE title off of him, and then Roman holds the Universal title for another year or something like that, getting really close to Hogan, not quite, but within a year or so of Hogan. It'd be really hard to pull off 4 years, because 2 already feels like it's been an eternity. But perhaps he could. And now with that whole situation happening with Kross, I could see that definitely happening. Spaz Phoenix, appreciate the $5. Welcome back. You actually did make it. Good. I'm glad you're here. Saw that super chat you had earlier a couple of hours ago. I appreciate it. I want Bayley's faction versus Toxic Attraction. Also, who comes back first, Gargano or Wyatt? Good question. With Triple H, I think it could be anybody. I think Gargano has got a good chance to come back this Monday on Raw, because Raw is in Cleveland, and Tommaso Ciampa has a shot at the U.S. title against Bobby Lashley. So Gargano could definitely come in and help Ciampa win or something like that. I don't know. We could see him there. Wyatt coming back would just be insanely huge. And I think Triple H, since it's going to be a stadium show, should have something big planned for Castlevania, because it's going to be the first stadium show in 30 years in the UK. So let's plan something big over there for those guys. Daniel, good to see you. Appreciate the $2 from you. JBL is messing with my internet. Fuck off, JBL. Stop messing with Good Mike Works internet. Pisses me off. We got an audience to please here. So anyway, let me scroll back and get into the news. Like I said, last night on SmackDown, we watched the return of Karrion Kross. What made this was so great is that we didn't see it coming, because we heard that he was potentially coming back, but I don't think anybody thought last night, by the time we got to the Roman segment, because we know he's going to be facing Drew at Clash, that would be where Kross came back. I thought many of us thought we might see him on Raw this week, maybe next week, maybe in a month, not just in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of this main event segment between your big title match at your stadium show in the UK. So when Roman is talking and Drew comes out, the lights go out and Scarlett is there, and then Drew is jumped by Kross. So Kross isn't necessarily going to be a babyface or anything. He beat up Drew. Little stare down with Roman. Roman seemed a little bit taken back by it. I'm not sure about this guy type of thing. Excellent way to end the show. So Kross's return, I think, is great. You know, I was never a huge, crazy killer or Karrion Kross fan, but I really appreciated his presentation and his, his presentation and everything that they did with him in NXT. I thought it was really well done. The Scarlett pairing, his ring style, his look, his music, like I said, the entire package was literally perfectly put together. It highlighted his strengths in the ring and it hid his weaknesses, and I thought he really had a chance to be a major player. Then everything starts going to shit, we've got COVID happening, and then Samoa Joe comes back and he drops the title, but then they bring him up to the main roster. And immediately they strip, like they do with everybody, they strip him of everything that made him special in NXT. Then they put a Ninja Turtle fucking helmet on him, He-Man suspenders, he loses Scarlett, and he literally looks ridiculous out there. He went from a guy that had one of the best looking presentations that you can ask for in wrestling to being a goddamn joke. And that is a perfect example of why Vince McMahon needed to go. Because of the shit he would do and the shit that he would make happen and the shit that he would insist on changing when it was so unnecessary, when the fans have already gotten to know these guys. You've established them with the audience, who they are, what their name is, and what their personality is like, and then you bring them to the main roster and you change everything. I'm like, well, what the fuck is the developmental system for then? To develop them, to get them experience, get them used to playing their character or playing their role, really, be able to grasp what it is, who they are, and what they're supposed to do. And then as soon as you bring them to the big time, you take it all away from them and tell them to start from scratch. What the fuck do you think's going to happen? Of course it's going to fail. So that stuff was highly frustrating with Vince McMahon in charge. So Triple H making these little statements right off the bat, a major return and a statement return by Triple H. Here's Karrion Kross the way he was always intended to be. The only difference is now he's got some hair. That's it. So that's very exciting, and that is just, like I said, possibly the tip of the iceberg, because we saw Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky show up at SummerSlam. There's a lot of talk now with the women's tag team titles coming back that the Sasha, Banks, and Naomi rumors are likely true. They could turn back up maybe at the end of the tournament to challenge the winners or enter the tournament themselves and reclaim their belts. They could always do that. But Kross's return last night opens up the door for a lot more people to return. I think this Monday is a show we should all watch. Unfortunately, I'm actually not going to be home on Monday, which sucks to see this, but I will be keeping my eye on the results, because Cleveland, Johnny Gargano, Ciampa, if Triple H wants to make this thing a norm, and I know WWE doesn't want to do what AEW does or did, and some fans criticize them for doing a little bit too much, was that promising these big surprises every week. But I think it's a really good way for Triple H to establish what he's going to do and how he wants to strengthen and deepen the roster that really needs it. This past week on Monday, we saw a lot more wrestling. Many more minutes of wrestling that we were seeing under Vince. And if you're going to have more wrestling on your show, you're going to need more talent, fresher matchups, because one big problem on Raw, it was the same matches every single week, where this past week we got a couple of triple threats, and now we're set up for a United States title match next week that we've never seen before between Ciampa and Bobby Lashley. So little changes like that are great, and I think that's going to continue for WWE, and I'm very much, as you can see, the halo over Triple H's head, very much in favor of the Triple H regime. Can he change everything in 2 weeks? No, but there's little things that he can start doing and start changing the direction of how storylines are built and presented and told on TV, giving the wrestlers and the characters a little bit more creative freedom on the mic, taking away the handcuffs of not being able to say things like wrestler or wrestling. Roman Reigns last night on SmackDown said hospital. I think that if you're a wrestler who's been given the creative freedom to kind of come up with a good portion of your promo, it's got to be nice to be able to think about that without having to think about the words you can't say. And I think little things like that, it's small, but little things like that can really help you and your creativity if you don't have to worry about, oh shit, can I say this or can I say that? Like, every word is fine as long as you're, it's not a 4-letter word or a curse word or something like that. You might have to get some approval. But other than that, these little restrictions, these pointless, meaningless restrictions that WWE had just for the sole purpose of trying to create this environment that WWE's bubble is separate from everything else and pro wrestling isn't even really a thing, is fucking stupid. And it's about time that things changed now. Becky Lynch did an interview this week with ESPN where she said much of the same thing. It's nice to be able to go out there and say things that we weren't able to say before, like belt and fans. You couldn't even say fans. It had to be the WWE universe. No, they're fucking fans. They're people. It's like everybody else. You don't have your own universe. Many people in your WWE universe also watch lots of other kinds of wrestling as well. I think it's stupid and naive and dangerous to even program the fans into that line of thinking, because that's where the tribalism comes out. They got to fans think that it's like sports and you have to root for only one team. It doesn't have to be like that. It's not like sports. You're not rooting for a home team. You have no home team here. You should be rooting for the entertainment and the sport of professional wrestling and be able to watch whoever delivers good content to you. Shouldn't matter whose fucking names are on the turnbuckle pads. So I think a lot of that stuff with WWE, you're going to see these changes, and you're going to see a lot of fans who have been kind of turned off or soured on WWE or the product, maybe slowly starting to say, oh, what are they doing? Oh, it's a little bit better? Well, maybe we'll tune in. My son used to like it. Maybe we'll try to watch it again. Hardcore fans like us, we're not going to stop regardless of how bad it sucks. That's been proven over the past 10 years how bad shit has been, and we've been watching every week. But some people who truly are casuals or truly had kids that watched it when they were 5, 6, 7, 8, but then when they became 10, 11, 12, they stopped watching it or anything like that because of how just stale, boring, and redundant and repetitive it got. I can understand those type of people turning off. So these changes could slowly start bringing in some interest from people who have left the product, because you've lost a lot of that just redundancy and that just repetitive nonsense that we see every week that has no substance to it. And there's just it's just so uninspiring. And I think that we're really going to see some of those changes. Now, there were some notes on this. Fightful Select actually had a report that came out just today about Triple H's regime now that he's in control. And I'm going to read you this because I did think it was interesting. And I quote, Triple H is expected to stay aggressive in WWE changes. Triple H has clearly been aggressive in his new roles, and that doesn't look to stop anytime soon. Triple H was able to retain Io Sky, re-signed Dakota Kai at the last minute to revive a stable that Vince McMahon shot down, bringing back Max Dupree to Maximum Male Models after Vince nixed that, and re-signed Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux. Fightful Select has learned that much like the Dakota signing, Karrion and Scarlett returning came together very quickly. Fightful had heard earlier this week that both were among talent discussed by Triple H and WWE higher-ups about bolstering their WWE main roster. In addition, we're told that several other talent have been discussed for returns, and a quote feeling out process has occurred. Those we spoke to told us not to expect Triple H to step off the gas pedal anytime soon as he reshapes the roster to add depth, which is just what we talked about a minute ago. We've also heard of several talent meetings individually with Triple H that have already taken place during a busy first week of kicking Raw and SmackDown into gear. So Triple H sounds like he's busy. If there is anybody out there that WWE released that Triple H was mad about them releasing, and that person is not currently under contract anywhere else, it sounds like Triple H has given that person a call, no matter who they are. So that could be lots of names. That could be upwards of 3 to 10 names that we could possibly see come back in the next few weeks, and some of those names could be massive. Absolutely massive. Karrion and Scarlett could just be the beginning. What's cool about Scarlett and Karrion Kross coming back is now I feel confident. Now I feel like it's up to Kross. Now it's sink or swim for him. Because before, poor guy was handcuffed with the ridiculous outfit that Vince slapped on him. Triple H is going to be fair, I believe. I firmly believe that Triple H is going to be a fair head of creative, and he's going to give the opportunities and give TV time to people that the fans want to see and that are getting over and that are good. So now if Karrion Kross doesn't have the restrictions that he had before and he can just be who he was in NXT, now we can truly see if this version of Karrion Kross can succeed on the main roster, because I was talking about that before he got called up from NXT. I said it's going to be really cool to see how he does on the main roster. And that was back when I thought he would be coming to the main roster with the Karrion Kross and Scarlett presentation from NXT. And then when he showed up in his debut and lost to Jeff Hardy in 30 seconds, I'm like, well, he's dead. So now that we got a second chance at this, I feel that if, for any reason, Karrion Kross does suffer any failures in the future, or maybe he just doesn't quite make it or cut it, or if anything like that happens, I'm no longer going to immediately put the blame on Vince McMahon and Vince McMahon only, where it was truly his fault before because of what they did to him. Now it's up to Kross. Any measures that he doesn't take or any success that he does not find, I feel will be a little bit more on him this time. But there's a really good chance that's not going to be a problem at all, because the Kross presentation in NXT with Scarlett is fucking great. And I think most fans, once it gets rolling, should like it. And we'll see exactly how strong he's going to be booked, because when you start and you have your debut against the strongest star they have, a guy that's been undefeated for over 2 years, walking around with 2 title belts, you either win those belts or go down the card. So he's like really starting out high to where there's almost nowhere for him to go but down. But using Kross as a way to get one of those titles off of Roman, provided Kross isn't there just to eat the pin and to put the belt on Drew. If you actually belt up Kross and give him one of those titles by having him, let's say, pin Drew McIntyre in a triple threat with Roman and Drew, Kross now wins, let's say, the WWE title, Roman remains Universal Champion, and then Kross and McIntyre feud for the WWE title on Raw, where maybe McIntyre beats him for it. So that could be a good way to get one of the titles off Roman, put a title back on Raw, which is what we're going to talk about in a minute, because apparently USA Network wants one of these titles back. But before, well, actually, let's talk about that, because there was another report, since we just talked about Fightful Select a minute ago. They had a report earlier this week that had claimed that the USA Network was requesting that WWE put a top title back on the show, since Roman Reigns is only on the show sporadically, and he's currently walking around with both titles, and he's not really wrestling on Raw at all. A little bit on SmackDown, and of course, a few pay-per-views. So there were some ideas pitched. Even USA suggested, according to Fightful Select anyway, that they had pitched an interim championship situation. So it sounds like some USA Network execs are watching a little bit too much AEW. I don't know if you would need to do an interim title situation when the current guy holding the belt is healthy. So an interim title would make no sense. So I think what they probably should do is just make an announcement or make a ruling that says Roman, or you can have Paul Heyman be a part of this when he comes back after selling the Brock Lesnar F5 onto the table. Heyman can come back and be like, you know, Roman is not going to put the titles on the line, or he refuses to fight this guy, but he'll put one of the titles on the line. Or maybe it's like a triple threat situation like I mentioned. And that still remains to be seen if Kross is actually added to this match at Clash of the Castle, or if Kross is going to be separate from the whole situation. But if a triple threat match does take place, whether that's at Clash or not, you can see Heyman, I could see Heyman being like, my tribal chief is at a huge disadvantage. He should not have to put both of his titles on the line against 2 people. The best I can give you is one. I'll tell you what, we'll put one title on the line, but he is Universal Champion. He's been Universal Champion for, 700 plus days. If he must defend the title, then we'll defend the WWE title. And then you do the deal where Kross or Drew pin each other. Roman loses the belt but never loses. Kross and Drew can go feud for that belt while Roman remains your Universal Champion on SmackDown. That's the way I feel like this would go based on what we saw last night on SmackDown. But who knows? Who knows? I could be way off on that. It just feels like that might be a good direction to go in, and it might be a good way to get a belt off of Roman without really beating him, which is what we discussed way back at WrestleMania time. As soon as Roman won those belts, I'm like, okay, what are they going to do now? There's no way, as long as there's 2 shows, and they're still being presented as like separate shows, USA and Fox. They're going to want their own championships. I'm all for having one championship, but you still got a guy with 2 belts. If they were really going to be unified, then the belts needed to merge together into one brand new universe or WWE championship that represents them both, like really fully unify them. But since they didn't, and you got Roman carrying 2 belts, you can definitely separate them back out again. So I feel like that's something that they should do. And if USA wants a top title on Raw, Triple H should give it to them. I believe he should. He shouldn't do their idea of the interim shit, but he should definitely figure out a way to do that. And I think Kross could be the beginning of that. So what's cool about this is that it means for the first time in the longest time, there are things to speculate on. There are things to get excited about in terms of WWE programming. Because before, I mean, I could just read the SmackDown results, and that's all I would need. You know, that's all I would need to see, is just read the results and be like, okay, I get it, you know? Where now it's like, shit, we got to tune in on Monday. Ciampa, Lashley for the first time ever for the U.S. title. Holy shit, they're in Cleveland. Triple H is bringing back everybody left and right. It's in Gargano's hometown. Tag titles are coming back. Sasha and Naomi reportedly reconciled with WWE. Fucking Bray Wyatt and Strowman haven't signed with anybody yet. This is exciting shit. So it feels good to say that because I'm a YouTuber. I make a partial living by talking about wrestling every day. Do you think I want to come up here and talk about shit that sucks? You know, every time I have to come up here and talk about a Raw or SmackDown and it's the worst goddamn show ever. You think that's fun? No. I want to talk about something that I had fun watching and that I enjoyed. And oh my God, I just feel so much better with Triple H at the helm. I just think we could really, really see some nice stuff. Since we have a pretty decent Saturday audience, can you guys do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button for me? And I would really, really appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. We're here a lot. We're going to be here tomorrow night watching WWE Fully Loaded 2000. Do a watch along of that. We're here every Saturday for podcasts. We're here most Monday nights for Raw reviews, most Wednesday nights for Dynamite watch-alongs, and we do a lot of other stuff, fun stuff on this channel as well. So if you are not subscribed, do it. You will like it here. Speaking of keeping on the subject of WWE, we need to talk about Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon has been removed from the internal roster page, according to Mike Johnson of PW Insider. He was removed from the talent list that included names not assigned to brands like your John Cena's and your Goldbergs and your Bellas and people like that. That's where Vince's name has been listed. It is officially off of there now, and Vince is really, really out of the company in that regard. It's just crazy to even think about that. And I mentioned earlier on about certain words being no longer considered dirty anymore in WWE, like wrestler, like wrestling, like belt, like fans. This was all according to Dave Meltzer of The Observer. And of course, Becky Lynch suggested some of the same things when she did that interview this week with ESPN. So those were all really, really positive news tidbits coming out of WWE behind the scenes in terms of Triple H and what he plans to do. Some of the little tiny changes that are already taking effect right off the bat. Vince being officially gone internally from the roster page, changes are upon us. Plus all the returns we've seen since SummerSlam. We got a couple at SummerSlam. We got a big one last night on SmackDown, and I got a feeling we're going to get something this week on Raw. Exciting times. Exciting times. Like I said, the WWE Women's Tag Team Title Tournament kicks off on Monday. We have not had any announcement that I have seen yet. Maybe you guys have, of any sort of teams being officially announced for this or competing in this or any matches set for Monday. And if this does tie into Sasha and Naomi returning, I'm curious how they come back. Do they do the CM Punk and John Cena spot after Cena won the title and then Punk came back and they did the double stare down with the 2 titles? Do you have Sasha and Naomi just confront the winners of this tournament, or do you put Sasha and Naomi in the tournament? And if you do, you know what I do? You know what I do if I'm Triple H, provided I've been able to smooth everything over and the reconciliation reports are true and Sasha and Naomi are coming back. I'd have them enter the tournament, make it to the finals, and lose clean. Lose clean. Not as punishment, just as that's probably what the fans wouldn't expect. Triple H can assure Sasha and Naomi, look, we're going to beat you tonight, but just stay cool. I got you. We're going to treat you right. We're going to treat you fairly. All of your issues that you had with Vince will not be a problem here, but we got to beat you here. We got to beat you in the finals. I think that would be good for the fans. It would make a statement. It would give a lot of the fans the assumption that you two are being punished or something like that, when that's probably really not the case. It would just be a nice maybe gesture on their part too, because you don't know how the talent really feels. I think a lot of the talent probably doesn't blame Sasha and Naomi at all, but still, even if the talent was justified in walking out, you're still walking out on your, your teammates type of thing. So it's like when Austin left, he came back, he kind of made amends with everybody after he took his ball and went home. And what did he do? He jobbed to The Rock. So, what happened when Brock Lesnar left for 8 years, came back? What happened in his first match? First match back after 8 years, job to Cena. So maybe they come back, they lose the tournament finals to, I don't know, any good team, maybe EO and Dakota. That would be great. I kind of pitched an idea where Sasha and Naomi would join Bayley's faction, but perhaps they can just lose to them in the finals or whatever, and then maybe Sasha turns on Naomi and goes back to singles, or maybe they remain a team. I don't know. Whatever they do, I think it would be great to have some sort of a swerve, but whatever they do, have Sasha and Naomi's return tied into this. And like I said, the two of them both did an autograph signing today in Chicago at that Comic-Con event. There have been a couple of pictures released from that. They were both going by their real names. They had booths next to each other, Trinity Fatu and Mercedes Verando or whatever it is. But Sasha had her Sasha Banks multicolored hair. She definitely looked like if she had to return and debut on TV tomorrow, she's ready to rock. And we will see, but they both made their appearance. Don't think any comments or any news came out of that in terms of anything that they revealed, but I think it's likely. And in terms of the reports, even though we've had no confirmation from anybody that I consider to be the most credible, whoever I get my news from, sometimes you just got to go with your gut. And sometimes, the writing's on the wall, and I firmly, maybe not firmly, but I believe there's substance to the reports that Sasha and Naomi have come back or are coming back or have reached some sort of an agreement to be debuting here in the future. It makes sense. It's plausible. And I wouldn't be shocked by it if it turned out to be true. So I thought it was so much true even prior to last week's Raw review. I threw them up in the thumbnail thinking they were going to come back. They did not. But this Monday could be another chance for the two of them to return. But today they were in Chicago at the C2E2 signing autographs and talking to the humanoids. Speaking of people who aren't around, where the hell is MJF? Fightful Select had an interesting article earlier on this week, or an update, I should say, on the MJF situation. That basically, in short, said that MJF has pretty much vanished from the professional wrestling scene, and no one has spoken to him since his big June 1st pipe bomb promo where he quit in LA. Some of the people that Fightful Select spoke to internally in AEW believe he wants out and does want to go to WWE. And the fact that nobody has texted or talked to him, or at least not revealed that they've talked to him, and nobody really knows internally what's going on, this is one of the better protected works I've ever seen, or, it's all legit. MJF is really pissed, disgruntled, and wants to leave AEW. I was at Double or Nothing in Vegas. I was there when all of the rumors were circulating throughout the weekend that MJF no-showed or the autograph signing or whatever. And he was not going to be at Double or Nothing, and then he was, and he opened the show, and he got squashed, and then he cut that crazy promo the next night or the night after, a couple nights after, on Dynamite. And since then, I was just under the assumption that it was a work, because I've never been fooled to the point where I thought something was a work and it wasn't, So this is one of those things where my gut, my instinct, ever since the whole entire beginning here, was that it was a work, because I think MJF is very different. He's in character all the time. If anybody can pull off, a major work like this, to where the entire world, and including the people and talent that work there and people internally in AEW, all believe this is legit, and then MJF just turns back up somewhere out of the blue and shocks the wrestling world, is the way I was always anticipating this to go. But according to this Fightful Select update, that not many people have talked to MJF. Nobody knows what's going on. It's been very quiet. We haven't heard any more news. Tony Khan refuses to mention anything about MJF on any media scrum, and we haven't heard any real concrete news or evidence of anything regarding MJF. It's fucking crazy. So the fact that this is being either, number one, so well protected, or number two, MJF really does want the hell out of AEW, I find that to be very interesting either way. The cool thing about the MJF situation is regardless of wherever he turns back up, it should be pretty damn interesting. Imagine if he goes to WWE and he shows up there right after Cody comes back. Imagine Cody's got the title shot against Roman Reigns. He's about to beat him for it, and MJF shows up and screws him. MJF screwed him out of getting the AEW title. Remember, didn't he beat him in the match and then Cody couldn't never get a shot again? What if he shows up and ends Cody's dream of tributing his dad by winning the belt that he never did? Oh my God, that would be incredible. But MJF was busy after that June 1st Dynamite that was in LA. He stayed in LA and he conducted some meetings with some non-wrestling related stuff. Maybe he's looking to get into acting. Apparently he did film some stuff with the Impractical Jokers guys, and he has been busy, but largely he's been kind of invisible and missing altogether from the wrestling world. Now, I've seen a lot of fans get, I don't know, bothered by this, upset by this, wondering where MJF is. This is bullshit. Where is he, man? You know, and I'm like, he can stay gone for a year for all I care. I think the business moves so fast now. Fans need that instant gratification. One of the biggest problems I thought was CM Punk's deal back in 2011 is after he beat John Cena at Money in the Bank, blew Vince McMahon the kiss, stuck the belt in the fridge and left. He came back too quick. He was back, 2 weeks later, 8 days later, something like that. They did the thing on Raw where Ray won the title and then Cena beat him for it, and then he came out to Cult of Personality, which was a great moment for Punk's return, but imagine how great that moment would have been if it happened 2 months later. Now, I know when you cut a pipe bomb like that and you have a 5-star match, you're white hot, so taking that away from the fans can blue ball you. I get it. I totally get that. But at the same time, if you really, really want to make it real and you really want to make it feel legit, CM Punk should have stayed away from WWE. They should have let him go work a Ring of Honor show. I know he turned up at a Comic-Con or something and confronted somebody, maybe Triple H or whatever that was way back then, but they didn't let him do anything really fun. And I think he should have been able to, they should have released him on TV or something like that, or make a fake release and then let him go work an indie date. Not maybe wrestle, just make an appearance there or something. Holy shit, CM Punk's back in Ring of Honor or whatever. It would have helped the work so much more. So in my mind, nothing like that was ever going to be able to be legitimately pulled off. We were never, as fans, going to be able to be fooled to the point, because I think deep down, everybody's going to know whether something's a work or not. Now, I've been proven wrong on that based on all of the fans' behavior during the Cody stuff. There was people that thought Cody leaving AEW was a work, and I'm like, well, you guys just don't understand how to spot works. I never once, for a second, for a millisecond, thought that was a work, because that would require cooperation from both companies, and that ain't going to happen. So with MJF, you know, if there is some tight-lipped deal between MJF and Tony Khan where they're the only ones that know about it, and like I said, and like a lot of talent has said, I don't think any wrestling promoter wants to get in the habit of working his own talent. But, you know, maybe if there was some internal memo that went out to AEW, because one thing you have to remember, and I know this is kind of a dark subject to bring up, but AEW talent can keep a secret. Part of the reason why CM Punk is in that company right now is because of how everybody respected the privacy of Brody Lee. And none of us knew. The night he died, I was driving to work, shocked. All I knew was he was off TV for a few weeks. No idea he was even sick and on his deathbed. And that was all because the talent knew, and they didn't leak this out. They didn't tell anybody or tell any journalists or put it on social media. They respected the privacy of that. So maybe, you know, if Tony Khan is like, look, and, you know, let's do our best to not say anything about this. If anybody asks you, you don't know. You know nothing about what's going on with MJF. And just do your best not to hint at anything. And TK and MJF have got some plan and a return date set for him where he comes back and makes some sort of an impact. It could be huge for AEW, but MJF could be seeing the greener pastures in WWE right now with the Triple H regime and how well Cody has been treated since he got back there, and that might really, really be where he wants to go. So I guess it just depends. In my mind, he could go either way. In my heart of hearts, I still believe this situation at its root is a work. I think that there was real heat between MJF and the company, and MJF wanting it because he had problems in MLW too. I think he had an issue with his contract there, so this is nothing new for MJF. I truly believe that those issues were there and they existed, but I believe that the big promo and the pipe bomb and everything on Dynamite. You don't let somebody who's going to permanently leave your company go out and do that. So at least in my mind, the night that MJF cut the promo on June 1st, at least as of that night, I'm of the belief that he would be back in an AEW ring at some point. I just don't think I would let somebody cut a promo that way and leave and then go to the competition. Even though he jobbed, the pay-per-view and got the shit kicked out of him by Wardlow, his last appearance was basically him telling AEW to go fuck themselves. And I just have a hard time believing that's the way Tony Khan would let one of his top stars walk out the door to the competition. So at least as of June 1st, I believe in my heart that everything is a work, and I still believe it is. But, the more and more, credible sources come out and say, no, everybody kind of thinks that he's legit gone or isn't coming back. He's going to have to sit out his contract or whatever. Whatever the deal is, a lot of people are of the belief he ain't going back to AEW. That's interesting. So in my mind, I don't care about whether I'm right or not. I don't really care to know. It's either a work or it's not. And for once, the fact that I don't know is the fun part about this. Everybody always talks about the Mark Henry retirement, how they were swerved. I wasn't. The entire time, I'm like, if this was a real retirement, John Cena would not be in this ring. Mark Henry's going to attack John Cena. I didn't believe it for a second. I've never been fooled. You can always know. The screw job, same thing. I watched the screw job happen that night. I knew something happened. I knew Bret Hart didn't submit. I'm not fucking stupid. You clearly knew some shady shit went down right there. And you never thought, and people thought the Bret Hart stuff was a work. I'm like, no, they mentioned him on Nitro the next night. WCW would have to be in on it, for it to be a work and all that, and that just wasn't going to happen. So the same thing with MJF is that I just don't believe that this is all 100% a shoot, and his words were legit on June 1st, and that's the last we're ever going to see of him. I just don't believe it. But man, imagine if he went to WWE. Oh my God. That would be some crazy shit. Before we get into our next order of business, I do feel like I need to knock out some super chats that have been coming in. Again, I want to appreciate all the people who are here. Keep hitting that thumbs up button for me. I would appreciate that. And if you're not a subscriber, make sure you become one, because it's a cool channel to be at. Chris Miner, appreciate the $2 from you, my friend. I want Zayn and Owens to take the titles from the Usos. That's a great idea. I want to talk about Sami Zayn a little bit, because the Usos were kind of getting on his case last night about pulling his own weight in the bloodline. Roman's got 2 belts. We got 2 belts each. Where's your belts? Where's your LeBaron, Freddie? Anybody know what movie that's from? Where's your LeBaron, Freddie? I don't see 2 LeBarons. I just see 1 LeBaron. Where's yours? So a lot of people are speculating that maybe Sami Zayn could go after the 24/7 title, win the 24/7 title, and then he gets to pretend he's just as important as the Usos and Roman. And I think that would be a fantastic idea, because the 24/7 title is fucking stupid. It needs to be completely scrapped. But now with Triple H in charge, if Triple H wants to make it fun, and not just because before it was intended to be fun, but I mean, how many weeks can you see 9 title changes happen, and people just the same 5 people chase around the title every week? There's no creativity involved. They started out a little bit creative with R-Truth and his disguises and the golf courses and all that, but they did a lot of that back in the day with Crash Holly too, like the airport stuff. So if you do something tongue-in-cheek where you have Sami Zayn win the title, and then he's standing in the ring with the bloodline as Roman's cutting a promo, and he's standing there with his chest out, the belt on his shoulder, and he's looking at the Usos, yeah, we're fucking champs. I think that would be hilarious. I think that would be fucking hilarious. So I'm willing to keep the 24/7 title around just a little bit longer to put it on Zayn, but when the inevitable destruction of Sami Zayn happens and the bloodline finally gets fed up with him, and they probably kick his ass and maybe replace him with the fella down in NXT, Solo, then you get him going to find his buddy Kevin Owens. They challenge the Usos, win the tags. Love it. Love the idea, Chris. Love the idea. Shell Shock 29, appreciate the $5 from you, dude. Sup, Greg? It's been a while. Just started my first full-time job this week. I'm optimistic for WWE's future. Here's hoping for the Triple H era. Thank you very much, my friend. Welcome back. Glad you're here. And I'm glad that we can tell by the audience here, I'm glad that there's a lot of optimism for WWE's future, because we have really been suffering. We've really been suffering, and I just think it feels good. And it feels a lot better if you just don't concern yourself so much with the fucking tribal bullshit. I love AEW, thought Dynamite this past Wednesday was one of the best Dynamites we've ever seen, but I'm equally as optimistic and happy with what WWE is delivering us to us right now. Guess what? It's a good time to be a wrestling fan. Not bad. Not bad. Maybe don't get so upset about what other people are saying on social media and just enjoy the ride, man, because finally we got something to look forward to. Could Triple H turn out to be a huge flop and a huge failure? Sure. Anything can happen. Who knows what WWE, what changes they will go through in the next decade. But at least for right now, Triple H is trying to fix and repair the damage that Vince McMahon has done. And Triple H being there to try to fix a little of these things, fill these cracks, smooth everything out, and try to give the fans a little bit more of an enjoyable product, I think can be the beginning stages of what could be a lot better in the company. But once the company is sold, gets sold to Disney or whoever the fuck, or McDonald's buys them, who knows if Triple H will be in charge of head of creative anymore, or if he will be replaced by the Hamburglar. We don't know. But hopefully, if somebody is in a position of creative and they're doing well, don't change it. WCW, we saw the revolving door of pencils in that company for so long, all the different guys that had the book, and the product suffered for it because you could see the discombobulation on TV. You knew that they didn't know what they were doing and their heads were up their asses. And because so many different people were in charge at different times. So there's got to be some stability in WWE. And if Triple H is truly going to be in charge of these things, he needs to be allowed to be in charge of it for a while and don't even think about replacing his ass. Let him do his thing unless for some reason the ratings, fucking tank and the show goes to shit. If that happens, then do what you need to do. But I just hope that Triple H's being head of creative is something that's a stable replacement and not one of many changes we see year by year, because that's really going to gum up the works, as they say. But anyway, let's go to the next one. Who's next? Terry Allen Jr. Appreciate the $2.40. Going to Florida, the beach. Should I bring masks? You're going to Florida to the beach? I think you'll be fine at the beach. I don't wear a mask at the beach. I think you'll be all right. I don't think Florida wears masks anywhere, so you should be fine in Florida. You can probably just walk around, do whatever you want there. I don't think they care. You can probably even shoot somebody. You'll probably be all right. Good luck to you, Terry. I do love Florida. The water is so warm and so awesome down there. It should be fun for you. Good luck. Deshaun Robinson, appreciate the $5 from you as well. Drew beats Roman for the Universal title. Roman heads to Raw to build a match with Cody at Mania. Drew versus Kross for the Universal title at the Rumble. Well, here's my only issue with that, Deshaun. I love the scenario, but I almost had the brands reversed, and Roman has already been Universal Champion for 2 years. That's the belt I want him to keep. I kind of wish he just would have won the WWE title because I like the WWE Championship more than the Universal. Universal is 6 years old. WWE title is 60. Big difference, and I appreciate the WWE title and its lineage more. However, Roman's already been Universal Champion for 2 years. I think he needs to keep that belt. Unless they try to conflate it, like unless they do your scenario and Drew beats Roman for the Universal, but Roman is still the WWE champion, so they try to make it seem like they make that all one cohesive consecutive title run, which that, in my mind, puts an asterisk in the record books. Triple H might not give a shit about asterisks, but I do. So I think that Roman, if they're already going to do a match where he's going to lose a world title, it should be the one that he just won at WrestleMania. He's only had that title for a few months, so take the WWE title off of him and allow him continue to run with the Universal to see how close he can get to Hogan. He's not going to hit that 4-year mark, but man, he's got a chance to come close. And I think that Roman, if they do in fact separate the belts, does have a chance to at least go 3 years. So that's my hope. But you've got Drew and Cody, you got Drew and Kross for the Universal title, that being your SmackDown feud, and you've got Roman and Cody on Raw. I almost think it's reversed. I almost think Roman and Cody might be SmackDown once that happens, and then Drew and Kross on Raw. But you could be right. Plus, you got that title match penciled in for the Rumble. That's very possible. I think if Kross is inserted, like I said earlier, at Castlevania, and one of them wins the title there, they're probably going to be feuding for the Universal title way before Royal Rumble. And plus, if they do separate the belts out in the next few weeks, that means we're going to get the champion versus champion match at Survivor Series. So keep that in mind too. Let's say they do it and then Roman is still the champ, and let's say Karrion Kross is the champ. And you do Roman and Kross champion versus champion at Survivor Series. And then you have Kross maybe going to the Rumble, dropping the belt to Drew or something like that. So that scenario could, or a version of that scenario could easily work, Deshaun. And you could probably change it up lots of different ways. Divine Ricks, appreciate $5 from you. We are only in August, and what a newsworthy year in the wrestling business. I'm happy for both AEW and WWE going into the future. Amen, my friend, because like I said earlier, it sucks to come up on YouTube and talk about something you didn't enjoy watching, So I like watching stuff that I like. Seems more fun. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. Spectre, are you the next one? Then I got to get back into the news here. There you are, my friend. Appreciate the $5 from you as well. Hey, Greg, glad to see you streaming while I'm losing my mind driving around looking for a store. Don't worry, I'm parked while writing this. Yes, do not be super chatting while you're driving. It's dangerous. Don't do anything on your phone while you're driving, please. But good to see you, Spectre. Hope you find that store you're looking for. I just hope it's not a Hobby Lobby. Anything else, have at it. But good luck, and thanks for chiming in while you were in your car. Awesome. Big Glenn, thank you for the $2, dude. Triple H, big things happening, little things stopping. Okay, works for me. Thank you, Big Glenn, and appreciate the super chat and the comment. Yeah, Scruffy Nerd, we call Clash at the Castle Castlevania here on this channel. That's the name of it, and that's the name I like to call it. So anyway, where did we leave off? We left off with the MJF stuff. Let's also talk about the expansion of talent relations and development team. According to a press release by AEW, they announced several in-house promotions to really kind of stabilize everything going on behind the scenes, because one of the biggest criticisms that a lot of people have heard from talent that used to work in AEW, it was really hard to get a meeting with Tony Khan or get anything done since he wore so many hats and he had so many jobs, and sometimes you have to go right to him for approval of things, and there were no middlemen or expediters or anything you really need in any business, really. Or it wasn't really, even if they had that, it wasn't structured as well as it should be. And we talked about this at least a month ago, that Tony Khan should start some delegation here, start delegating these responsibilities out to people, start to develop a backstage atmosphere that does have a decent amount of infrastructure to it, so the talent is comfortable and they're confident in their workplace. Because if you get uncomfortable people working there, that's what happens in WWE when nobody knows what to do and there's changes last minute and nobody knows who to talk to. It was the same type of stuff that led to the death of WCW. So you really want to have internally shit stable behind the scenes. So they have announced in this press release that Sonjay Dutt, Pat Buck, QT Marshall, and Tony Schiavone will all be receiving promotions. Sonjay Dutt is now going to be the VP of Production and Creative Coordination. Pat Buck is the VP of Talent Development. Tony Schiavone, Senior Producer and Special Advisor to the talent. And Christopher Daniels will remain the manager, I guess the head of the Talent Relations Department. And finally, Madison Rayne was hired on to be a coach for the women's division. Of course, Madison Rayne is pretty much done everything that you can do without working for WWE. I believe she was in the Mae Young tournament one year. I think Mercedes Martinez beat her. Can't remember if that's true or not, or if I'm misremembering that or not. But other than that, I don't recall her being in WWE's NXT system or anything like that. So she's done a lot, in Impact and everywhere that she's worked, and the championships that she's won. She's a really seasoned veteran. She's been doing it 15-ish years. Really good person to bring on for a coach. And it's another thing, in addition to all the talent relation stuff that we've been talking about with AEW, they really should try to get something going with their women's division in terms of development and maybe some coaches and things like that. So having a veteran presence in the locker room like that can be there with a second job to not only get in the ring a little bit like we saw her do last night on Rampage, but also be there as a coach and a mentor to some of the younger women's talent there. And I think Madison Rayne should really be the beginning of it too. They should probably bring in a couple of people to really help round out and strengthen that women's division, because even though the talent is getting better, the booking of the women's division, not so much. So I think they really need to work on increasing that and improving upon that. And Madison Rayne being there is a good way to do that. So that's very good news for all of those people behind the scenes in AEW, that now Tony Khan is starting to pass out and delegate some of these responsibilities to other people, to where it should make the chain of command a little bit easier to manage if you're a talent backstage and you need to talk to somebody or you need to get approval for something. or you need a question answered, you now have people to go to, and that's what's important. So congrats to all those. Those are extremely qualified people. Pat Buck just left WWE, don't forget. He was just there a matter of months ago and left. Maybe it was last year now. I can't remember what it was. Or maybe it was last year at SummerSlam. He hasn't been gone. I don't even think he's been gone from WWE for a year. But the minute he left, he went over to AEW, I believe, the next week. So you add him to that. Tony Schiavone, of course, all of his experience in the business. Tony Schiavone has kind of taken over, the Jim Ross role in WWE almost in terms of kind of being that legendary announcer. And, of course, Christopher Daniels, it's really good to see him in his 50s and all of the years he's been wrestling. To have a behind-the-scenes job like this is great for him. If I am a piece of talent, I'm very comfortable approaching any of these people. Sonjay is great. Pat Buck is great. QT is great. Everybody loves Tony Schiavone. And Christopher Daniels is one of the most well-liked people in the entire business. So if I'm working there, if I'm a wrestler in AEW and I'm like, this feels pretty good. I have good relationships with all these people. They're all easy to talk to. None of them are fucking nuts. And it's I think these are all positive moves behind the scenes for AEW. And in something that I'm not sure if it's positive or negative is the AEW video game, the Fight Forever video game that's coming out soon. AEW has dropped a trailer of the game with Britt Baker and Tony Schiavone playing it. And from what I saw on the feedback, fans didn't seem too enamored with the game. They didn't seem too thrilled with it, had a lot of questions. Again, I'm an old school gamer. I can beat Contra without the Konami code. Does that count? Other than that, I don't know shit about video games or what I'm supposed to look for or what fans are looking for in a game. A lot of fans were complaining about the graphics. Some of it maybe looked choppy or whatever. From what I remember of playing video games 35 years ago, gameplay was very important to me. The functionality of the buttons, how the characters moved on the screen, how easy and fluent it was to move, how responsive the buttons were, and just basically the overall gameplay. That would be way more important to me than the graphics. If I can play it, I don't really give too much of a shit of what it looks like as long as it's fun and can be addicting. And I know with wrestling games, they have career modes and creator wrestlers and all that stuff. I don't understand any of that or what you're looking for, pros and cons there. But so far, much of the feedback from the Fight Forever video game has been mixed. And a lot of hardcore gamers that know a lot about video games are saying that they need to see a little bit more of it before they make an accurate assessment of it. Do I have that right? Sounds like that's the overall vibe of this game. It doesn't seem like it's going to be quite on the level of the WWE 2K games, but I remember in the last couple of 2K games that came out, fans were just bitching about the glitches and all the fucked up shit you can do. So I'm not sure really what constitutes a good game and a bad game. I think it's probably a combination of what you can do in terms of the different modes and the features the game has, plus the gameplay, plus the graphics. All of that, I'm sure, comes into play. But hell, all video games now are done online. I just all I know is this. That's it. NES, baby. NES, maybe some Atari, maybe some Sega Genesis, some wrestling games on there. Otherwise, I'm the wrong guy to ask when it comes to doing video games, modern video games, and playing them and whatnot. So I will be keeping an eye on the feedback from all of you guys that do know about gaming. Once the game is released, I'll be curious to know what the fans actually think of it and if AEW has distributed a decent game or not. Hopefully they will, especially if they want to get into doing this and releasing multiple games. WCW had some decent games from what I remember, from what the fans always said, so I don't know why AEW cannot. So we'll see in the future. We've got some numbers coming in from Ric Flair's last match that took place last Saturday. We talked a little bit about this on Monday's Raw review, but the gate and the attendance is in. 6,800 fans, $450,000 gate. Apparently they have somewhere in the neighborhood of 25,000 pay-per-view buys, and this is the second biggest independent show behind All In 2018. So that means the two biggest independent shows ever in terms of gate and money and pay-per-views produced happened in the last 4 years. Something to think about. Wrestling's doing all right now. I have my opinions about Ric Flair's last match. To me, his last match will always be in 2008. I hope that what he did last Sunday gave him the closure that he needs, but it didn't provide me with any closure at all. I've been extremely soured on Ric Flair and who he is as a person in the last couple of years, but that doesn't mean I don't respect his legacy. That doesn't mean that I don't respect what a huge name he made for himself in professional wrestling and how important Ric Flair's career was to me as a professional wrestler. I understand and appreciate all of that, and you can do that while still not really loving your heroes, you know what I mean? But the card was spectacular. I mean, it really was a dream event. You had so many different promotions participating in this, and to see an event with so many promotions represented, there's no way to look at that other than good. So congrats to Conrad Thompson and his whole team there for pulling off a really successful show that did some pretty decent money, all of which I'm sure Ric Flair wanted every dime of it. Anyway, but yeah, pretty impressive numbers there coming out of Ric Flair's last match. Also, some really happy news to share. Hacksaw Jim Duggan has completed his radiation treatment for his second bout, I believe, with prostate cancer. He posted a video of him ringing the bell in the clinic there after 39 radiation treatments, and he is currently cancer-free. So very, very happy for the tough guy. Ho! Get well, Hacksaw. Very happy to hear that news. And that kind of wraps it up for all of my news tidbits and the shit we wanted to discuss. I want to get into a little bit of SmackDown Rampage and Dynamite highlights and just some news and notes and results coming out of that. Let me just scroll over here one more time and knock out any other supers that are coming in. Torch is here with $2. How far you see Bianca having the championship? Yeah, you know, I don't know at this point. I feel like it depends on how much had to change after Becky got injured, because I think maybe Triple H, WWE had an idea of where they wanted everything to go before Becky separated her shoulder. Now she's going to be out. So Bianca and Bayley were having an issue prior to Bayley's injury, so I kind of feel like Bianca might be dropping that belt to Bayley whenever we see Bayley get back in the ring. But if WWE wants to have Bayley and this faction be strong, and you got Io Sky and Dakota Kai perhaps winning that women's tag team title tournament, and you can turn them into the female bloodline. And you got the two of them with the women's tag team titles, and then perhaps Bayley wins the Raw title from Bianca, and then you got a faction, you know, carrying around a lot of gold. And Bayley being WWE champion while, you know, she's teaming up with the tags could, you know, maybe help elevate those worthless tag team titles a little bit. Because prior to Vince McMahon leaving, I did not give a shit if they brought the women's tag team titles back or not. Actually, as a fan, I would have preferred if they just stayed away. But as soon as Vince left, I'm like, yeah, bring them back. So Triple H wants to bring them back. At least I trust him to fucking try. So I think that it depends on the storyline they have planned for Bianca and her, you know, next feud and all of that. And I kind of think it might be Bayley. I think Bianca will probably drop it this year, though. If not, if they don't have any plans for her to drop it soon, then I'd have her maybe drop it at the Rumble or something, is what I would do. We'll see. Good to see all these comments in here on the video game and stuff. I'm sorry I can't answer all of these questions, but we still got a lot to talk about. And I've been super paranoid about the internet interruptions, although we haven't experienced one since right at the beginning of the podcast here. So I'm glad that is holding up. I want to talk a little bit about Dynamite this past week. What a fun show. And it sucks because, like I said, I'm very busy at work. My boss just had a baby, so I'm working a lot. Just for the next couple of weeks, I'll go back to my Brock Lesnar schedule this fall, and things will be super easy for me, and I won't have much to do. But in terms of right now, I'm really busy, so I was not here to watch Dynamite live this past week, and I will not be here live on Wednesday to watch Quake by the Lake either, which sucks because I'm really looking forward to this card on Quake by the Lake. So I might have to come up here on like Thursday afternoon and do a Quake by the Lake review. So keep an eye out for that possibly next Thursday. But I'm not going to spend a ton of time on Dynamite. We're not going to talk about everything, just a few of the key points that we saw this past Wednesday. First of all, Dynamite scored a rating of 938,000, so right in their range there. They're always between 800 and 1.1. That's the area that I always look for. Whenever they're in there, I'm not really too concerned. When they dip below the 800, it's concerning. When they dip above or when they push above 1.1, it's pretty exciting. So those are exciting times when they go above 1.1 or under 800. But in the middle, I feel that like that's pretty much the status quo for AEW. Somewhere around 1 million viewers is generally what they bring in, at least on TV. So the show opened up with a pretty good match between Jay Lethal and Orange Cassidy, but a match that I wasn't pleased with the outcome. Don't like to see Orange Cassidy get beat because I like Orange Cassidy, but Jay Lethal took him out and beat him with the lethal injection, and then Lethal and crew, Sonjay and crew, continued to attack Orange Cassidy. The best friends were out there, but then Wardlow came out to make the save. and run off Jay Lethal, and they are set for a TNT Championship match tonight in just about an hour or so at Battle of the Belts 3. We also saw the big turn. Adam Cole finally turning on the Young Bucks. This was set up pretty nicely here, although you could kind of tell as soon as Adam Cole mentioned the word, I think it was loyalty. I was like, yep, that's it. You could see the positioning of the wrestlers where they were standing. Cole was in the middle, the Bucks were on each side. You got a Red Dragon guy on each side with the Bucks. I'm like, oh, it's happening. So Cole says that because he's not medically cleared to compete, that he can't be, and neither is Kyle O'Reilly, that the Bucks need to choose Bobby Fish as their third guy to go after the trios title, because if it's not going to be me and it's not going to be Kyle, it has to be Bobby Fish. And if it's not going to be Bobby Fish, he goes, I'm sorry, you guys just aren't going to be able to compete in the tournament. And they're like, what the fuck? And then Cole goes, wait a minute, I'm not using my words right. What I meant to say is you won't be physically able to compete in the tournament. And that's where they are both attacked, both the Bucks attacked from behind by O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. They get taken out, and Cole is throwing super kicks, and they're beating the hell out of the Young Bucks. And then Hangman Page's music hits. He runs down to the ring to make the save. Prior to this happening, while Cole and Undisputed Era are fucking over the big Bucks, they cut to the crowd, and there's a shot of this kid fucking losing his mind. I mean, this is not a plant or a crisis actor. This is a child that is literally crying, tears streaming down his face, watching Cole beat the hell out of the Bucks. It was hilarious. Apparently he calmed down once Hangman came out there and made the save, but I don't know if that ain't your finals of your trios championship tournament. I guess that's what they're going to do, right? It's going to be a tournament. Then I don't know what is. How do you not have the finals, Cole, O'Reilly, and Fish against Hangman and the Bucks? Feels like that's got to be it. I kind of would think it would be cool if Hangman and the Bucks won the trios titles, because Hangman won the tags with Kenny. So it'd be kind of cool if he won the trios with the Bucks. And speaking of Kenny, you got to wonder when he might be returning. Now, the Bucks and Hangman have been teasing a lot of reconciliation on not only TV, but also on Being the Elite. So you knew that they were probably going to be coming back together. But Kenny is also on the verge of coming back as well. So whenever Kenny Omega comes back, you have to wonder where he factors into all that, with all the history between him and Hangman and him and the Bucks. And these three guys are trios champion, and then Kenny comes back and says, well, where do I fit in? That's kind of interesting to see how all of that shakes out and where Kenny lands on whatever side of this. So we'll see down the road there, but they finally did do the turn with Cole and O'Reilly turning on the Bucks, and I guess the Bucks are back to being babyfaces again, along with Hangman. So we saw that angle go down on Dynamite. That was pretty good. I love that tag team match between Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker against Thunderstorm, Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm. That spot where Thunder Rosa came off the top rope and hit the double boot to the head of Jamie Hayter when she was trying to pin, I think, Storm, was gnarly. Watching Hayter's head get hit in the back and then her face go right into the mat. Oh my God, what a spot. And the heels got the win there when Thunder Rosa actually got accidentally hit by one of Toni Storm's hip attacks, and allowing Hayter and Baker to get the win. And we also have Jamie Hayter taking on Thunder Rosa for the women's title tonight at Battle of the Belts, right? Where's my Battle of the Belts card? Why can't I find it? There it is. Yeah, it is Thunder Rosa defending against Jamie Hayter tonight. So that will be tonight's match, and that should be pretty damn good. Also on Wednesday, we saw Team Taz officially disband. We saw that great angle. We watched that together. That's the last time I've actually been live for a Dynamite watch-along, was when we watched Ricky Starks take on Danhausen, and then he defends the title, beats him for the FTW title, and then calls out another challenger. Hook comes out, beats Starks for the title, and of course then after that, Hobbs comes out and turns on Starks. They do the whole thing. There was so much happening there in that segment, and it was probably pretty confusing for Taz, who was supposed to be the leader of this little group, but they have not done much with Team Taz, or even really referred to them as Team Taz as a faction in quite some time. So they finally addressed this on Wednesday prior to Hobbs having his squash match against Ren Jones. Taz on commentary says, yo, they're done. Team Taz is over. I don't know what's going on. I'm out of the loop. I don't know what everybody's doing. They're all doing their own things. They're all going to be great. I wish them well, but there's just no more Team Taz. I can't do it anymore. It was kind of funny how he was just like, I don't know what these guys are doing. There's no Team Taz. We're done. It's disbanded. It's done. Wish them all the best, but obviously there's no such thing as this faction anymore, which was just kind of funny how they addressed it. Ricky Starks, after Hobbs gets done murdering poor Ren Jones, runs out to try to attack Will Hobbs, but he gets hit by a nasty-looking spine buster, and I like this whole situation. I absolutely loved what they pulled off the other week with Ricky Starks, because a lot of fans have been wanting him to be a babyface for quite some time, to see him finally make the turn. He is a charisma machine, and I think maybe the turn happened a little bit quick. I would have liked to see them win the tag titles before they did the turn, but I think the whole thing was still executed well, even though the timing of it was maybe a little quicker than what I would have done. And, of course, you know, Starks and Hobbs will be continuing their issue going forward, and Starks, we will see how he progresses as a babyface, because he's got so much potential and fans really, really like him. So that situation went down on Wednesday. Also, we had a good match between Christian Cage and Matt Hardy. These guys have been feuding for 23 years, which commentary repeated about 16 times during this match, but it is true. I was actually in the audience 22 years ago, right around now, for SummerSlam 2000, the big TLC match with the Hardys and the Dudleys and Edge and Christian. Damnedest damn thing I've ever seen up close. That's the first time I'd seen crazy table bumps to that level up close and in person before, because table bumps, believe it or not, were not a regular thing in the 80s or the 90s for that matter. It wasn't until the late 90s that shit started becoming kind of the norm with ECW and stuff. So seeing all that stuff in person for the first time was nuts. That was 22 years ago. And, yeah, their first match was in 99. I remember watching that on pay-per-view as well. No Mercy 99, Edge and Christian with the bag of money for the services of Terry. My. And here they were all these years later as old men, especially Matt. Matt looked in pretty good shape, though. He's wearing like a tank top, a little bit different ring gear, and Christian Cage beat him clean with the kill switch. After the match, Luchasaurus comes out to the stage to distract Christian. Jungle Boy runs in and attacks Christian from behind, running him off because Christian was about to concerto Matt Hardy in the ring. So he got run off by Jungle and Lucha, and we should be setting up for Christian and Jungle Boy at All Out, I would assume, correct? So that match should be announced soon. Here's one that was crazy. My God. Now, I only saw this last night. I did not see, like, the internet reaction to this. But am I the only one that found that dumpster bump insanely dangerous? Holy shit. Now, we've seen dumpster matches before. I remember WrestleMania 14 we saw a dumpster match. Prior to the dumpster match at WrestleMania 14, we saw the same spot take place with the Outlaws and Mick Foley and Terry Funk on Monday Night Raw. And having a dumpster match on Dynamite I thought was really fun because of Billy Gunn. The Ass Boys are in this match, and Billy Gunn was in one of the only dumpster matches ever, probably the most famous one, at WrestleMania 14, when they defended the titles against Mick Foley and Chainsaw Charlie or Terry Funk, and they lost the titles. So a little throwback here. I did see a couple of comments when I was watching the YouTube video of, oh, Tiny Tony is imitating WWE again. I'm like, this is so cool to have these little links and these nods to the past. That has nothing to do with anybody copying anybody else. It has to do with one of these kids being in a match that his dad was in. And a lot of fans who watch wrestling remember those days and remember the Attitude Era and remember the Outlaws and remember the dumpster match they had with Foley. This is a nice callback to the past. I would hate if wrestling did not have these things. It would be boring. I like little reminders to the past, and to complain about that is to just be a little tribal bitch. So my God, I could not believe how many people go, oh, I can't believe he's copying. I'm like, man, have some fun. Come on, where is the fun in this world? Just have some fun. I think it's so cool that they did a callback here. However, I am going to have my issues with this match because somebody could have fucking died. Match was pretty good. By the way, it's between the Acclaimed and the Ass Boys or the Gun Club. And I didn't catch it. Was this the week where Max Caster said I'm gonna have you leave like Vince McMahon or something? Is this the week that he dropped the Vince McMahon bar? That's pretty crazy. So the match happens, big brawl, of course. They're now up on the ramp. The dumpster is up there, and they get Austin Gunn is tossed off the tunnel by Caster. They're both up there on top of the tunnel. He's thrown off of the tunnel into the dumpster. You see the styrofoam fly up. So I'm like, okay, good. At least they're a little bit padded and protected there. Then he gets his hands on Colton Gunn. Colton Gunn is placed on the table on the ramp next to the dumpster. Caster is still on top of the tunnel after tossing Austin off of that and decides to hit the mic drop, big elbow from the tunnel onto the table, onto the ramp, and then they pick up the lifeless body of poor Colton and dump him in the dumpster. They close the lid, and the Acclaimed win the match. Now, after they win, they immediately start zip tying the lid to the dumpster closed. And you know what they're going to do. You know what they're going to do. And they go to start pushing it off the ramp, although it's fucking up. The wheel is getting caught on the edge, and then Bowens has to, like, run around to the other side. They don't have as much room to work with, basically, as you did back in 1998 on the big Raw stage where they had that big running runway to just launch that thing off there. They had a little bit less room to work with here, and they struggled, but finally they got the thing squared up to push it off. And even on the floor, it looks like they had a little bit of extra padding down there on the floor. But what was different about this as compared to the 1998 bump is that when they shoved and pushed the dumpster off the edge, it falls and rolls and tips over on its top. So basically you even saw like the lid kind of open a little bit and styrofoam fall out of there. It would have been really easy for, unless there was some trap door I didn't see and they got out of there or something. It feels like if you're going over the top like that, your arm or something, or your head or your leg could get caught underneath the lid when it's tipped upside down, and it could just lop your arm off, or it could land on top of you. Those things are fucking heavy, unless it was a gimmicked dumpster and it wasn't one of the big industrial ones you see outside of restaurants that weigh tons. If you roll that thing off and somebody would have gotten caught underneath it somehow, or part of it would have landed on them, because when it flipped upside down, a body could have fallen out early and then the thing could have tipped and landed on it. Same thing can happen if you roll over in a four-wheeler or something like that. It can actually roll on top of you. And that was really close to happening. I jumped back if I would have been watching that live with you guys, I would have flipped out. So I could not believe that. I'm like, wow, that was super fucking dangerous. So hopefully both of the Ass Boys survived that bump. I think that was even gnarlier than the one that Cactus and Terry took back in '98. But man, that was crazy stuff. Crazy stuff, but also very, very good stuff. Also, we had a really interesting segment on Dynamite where Ethan Page comes out to the ring and he starts cutting a very angry, pissed off promo talking about his merchandise. Oh, yeah, you guys cheer me, but you're not lining up to buy my shirts. You're just buying the Darby Allin shirts and the CM Punk shirts and all this shit, and he's all pissed off. And that's when he turns around to find Stokely Hathaway in the ring with him. Oh, my God, I will take Stokely over Dan Lambert any day of the fucking week. So Ethan kind of looks a little surprised that he's there. What are you doing here? Get the fuck away from me or whatever. And Stokely's like, just chill. Leans over, whispers something into Ethan's ear, pulls out his business card, hands it to him. I think Stokely gave his business card to Lee Moriarty recently as well. And that was enough to convince whatever he told Ethan, that's all he needed to hear. And the two of them actually leave together. So it sounds like Stokely Hathaway is formulating a pretty big stable of men and women, and that's pretty fucking awesome. So interested to see where that goes, because Page is another guy that I always wondered why he was with Lambert, because Lambert's so loud and over the top and, such a, obnoxious personality. Page didn't need to be with him. Page can do that on his own. Page can talk and be obnoxious and loud with the best of them. So I think Stokely is a much better pairing for Ethan than Lambert was. If they do want to bring Lambert back, or if that fucking buffoon ever does show his fat face back on AEW again, maybe they stick him with someone who can't talk, who could use, a little bit of a mouthpiece, or, maybe somebody doesn't speak very good English, something like that, instead of people who can talk and do know what they're doing. So Stokely Hathaway and Ethan Page have now joined forces. That's interesting. And finally, in the main event, we had a match between Lionheart, Chris Jericho, and Wheeler Yuta. Stipulation here is that if Wheeler Yuta wins, he takes Jericho's place in the match that he's booked in next week at Quake by the Lake against Moxley for the interim title. So I don't think anybody really expected Wheeler Yuta to win this, because we have seen Yuta and Mox have that great series of matches that basically got Yuta into the Blackpool Combat Club. Jericho now going in the Lionheart direction. Rematch from Revolution a couple years ago when Moxley won the title sets up everything pretty nice here, and I think most people were expecting Jericho to win, and he did. Won with the Lion Tamer. Wheeler Yuta tapped out. Mox comes out to run off Jericho at the end, and we got Jericho and Mox set for this week at Quake by the Lake. We'll run through the card on this in a minute. I also missed the segment. Apparently they did a segment with Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti, who are, I believe, off getting married at this moment, or engaged, or about to get married, or something. And Eddie Kingston came out like, yeah, why are we showing this, or whatever. I forgot what he said, but I saw a lot of people reacting to that, which is funny. And apparently Darby Allin and Brody King are tattooing themselves with each other on their bodies because of their current feud, and they're going to be wrestling in a coffin match as well next week. So here's what we got for Quake by the Lake on Wednesday. Mox versus Chris Jericho for the interim AEW title. Darby Allin taking on Brody King in a coffin match. That's going to be fun. Jade Cargill taking on Madison Rayne, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Lucha Brothers taking on Andrade and Rush in a Texas Tornado match. So Quake by the Lake looks pretty good. Do you think if there's a strong enough Quake by the Lake that it could put out a great ball of fire? I know that's a fully loaded question, so think about it while you're in your house. But don't let it drive you to a breaking point. If you have to go back to your old stomping grounds to get this answer, do so. I just don't want there to be any bad blood between us. You know what I mean? So I don't know if Quake by the Lake could put out a great ball of fire or not. Maybe one day we will find out. But we did have Rampage going on last night as well. I will just quickly run through that. We had Jon Moxley facing Mance Warner. Big independent star, worked in MLW, various places. He's not a guy that I was very familiar with. I think I've heard his name and seen him, but really don't know too much of his work. But a lot of people who follow independent wrestling love this idea, and I love that AEW brings these guys in from time to time because they do have a following for people that do watch indie wrestling. I thought it was cool when Cody wrestled Warhorse that time. They brought Nick Gage in a couple of times. So I do kind of like the people that have those cult followings around wrestling being able to get a chance to be featured on cable TV every now and then. And last night's Rampage was live because after the show they did tape Battle of the Belts, which goes live in about an hour. And the Mox and Mance Warner match was a lot of fun. In the end, we saw the blood, we saw the brawling, we saw everything you would expect to see in that match. And Moxley chokes him out to get the win there. But a nice exposure for Mance Warner. And I don't get into the whole deal of who or who's that or nobody knows what he is or who he is. That seems to be another critique you get from the bad faith AEW haters out there, that back in the day when I was a kid, you used to brag about stuff that you did know. Now you brag about stuff that you don't know. And it amazes me how many people will take the time to tweet, who is this guy, but not take the time to put who is this guy into their Google machine. What's so hard about google.com? Why can't you type that? Is it that hard? Why would you brag about not knowing something that you can easily know with literally negative effort? It takes no effort to Google somebody's name whatsoever. So the fact that fans back in the day when I was a kid, the more you knew, the smarter wrestling fan you were. I tried to keep track of as much stuff as I could just so I was prepared, with information for people if somebody wanted to talk about somebody and I knew what they were talking about, or I could offer, and teach somebody who somebody was or whatever. You used to brag, used to use that as a source of, of bragging back in the day. Of, I know this guy, or I've got tapes of him, or I've seen it. Now, because the tribal war has gotten so idiotic, now it's cool and the in thing to do to not know who somebody is, when that makes no sense, because of any time in history, it's never been easier. It's never been easier in the history of the entire planet Earth to know and find out who somebody is. So to take the time to say that you don't know who somebody is, instead of just Googling who it is like walking around your house for 2 hours to look for the TV remote, but refusing to walk up to the TV to turn it on or to change the channel. And then bragging about it. So to me, that lacks all kinds of logic, and I just don't get it. If you don't know who somebody is, look it up. Why do you have to, I don't know who that is, nobody cares? I'm like, no, just because you don't know doesn't mean nobody knows. Just because you in your little bubble don't know who somebody is doesn't mean that the entire world doesn't know. It's a center of the universe complex that so many wrestling fans have. Everything revolves around me. If I don't know it, then it doesn't exist. That's their mentality and that's their attitude. And if a wrestling company shows them someone that they've never seen before, who's this? You know, all WWE does is sign ex-WWE guys. And then AEW tries to feature non-ex-WWE guys, and the fans are like, who's this guy? I'm like, well, what the fuck is it? What's your problem here? You know, like, how is it, what is it like to live with a twisted, jagged, thorny branch rammed and shoved so tightly up your ass? Doesn't it hurt to walk around like that and to live like that every day? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I'll never understand it. So, of course, anytime AEW brings out anybody from the indie scene or who is not as recognizable as Roman Reigns, fans jump on that and use it as a critique, which is just so insanely fucking stupid. Yeah. Anyway, I thought the match was a lot of fun, and Moxley, of course, got the win, as he should have. We also had Konosuke Takeshita taking on Ryan Nemeth. He got the big win there, and Takeshita's got a match tonight as well against Claudio, which I'm really excited about. We saw Madison Rayne making her in-ring debut last night as well, defeating Layla Gray. At the end of that, that's when Jade Cargill came out and told Madison that she has this open challenge, and she would love to face Madison Rayne this Wednesday at Quake by the Lake, so that match is penciled in for your TBS title. And we also had a tag team title match headlining Rampage last night. Swerve in Our Glory defeating Josh Woods and Tony Nese to retain the tag titles. Swerve pinned Nese after his big top rope stomp move finisher thing, and they got the win there, retained the titles. That's always great to see. And like I said, 1 hour from now, Battle of the Belts 3 goes live at 8 o'clock Eastern, and we have Jade Cargill. I'm sorry. No, I got Jade Cargill written on here, but that's not happening until Wednesday. Thunder Rosa defending the AEW title against Jamie Hayter. Wardlow defending the TNT title against Jay Lethal. And Claudio Castagnoli defending against Konosuke Takeshita for the Ring of Honor Championship. Am I missing a match then? Is this a 3-match card or a 4-match card? I mistakenly wrote Jade versus Madison Rayne here, but I know that's taking place at Quake by the Lake. So that means there's either 3 matches on this card tonight for Battle of the Belts, or there's 4, and I've missed what the other one was. The spoilers are out. This match, or this show, of course, was taped last night, but I will not divulge those spoilers to you. You're just going to have to wait, or you can look up the spoilers yourself. Okay, thank you for that, Sean. Just 3 matches. Good to know. I'll be cruising over here to the chat to knock out some of these questions here in just 1 second, because we are going to finish up a couple of minutes early, which is good. But before we do that, I do want to run through SmackDown from last night. Now, we already chronicled at the beginning of the podcast here the entire return of Karrion Kross and Scarlett, what that could mean for his future. Is he going to be in the title picture? Is he going to be one of the people to take one of these belts off of Roman Reigns now that that rumor is circulating around? Is he going to be added to the Drew and Roman match at Castlevania? What does it mean for his character, his presentation? What's Triple H going to do with him? All of that stuff was discussed kind of back at the beginning of the show here, so you can scroll back to listen to that. So we won't talk about Kross too much here, but I do want to talk about the rest of what we saw on SmackDown. We saw Ricochet defeating Happy Corbin, hit him with the 450, and got the win on that. Pat McAfee was having an absolute blast on commentary during this match, watching Corbin get his ass kicked, and had a good time. I didn't see it, but a lot of people were talking about his telestrator, that he was using to illustrate how McAfee got kicked in the balls or whatever. I think that's a great touch, giving Pat McAfee one of those things, because back in the day, 2 people had him in WWE. Bobby Heenan had one a long time ago, the brain scan, where he would draw. And then Jerry Lawler had, I forgot what his was called, not Magistrator or something like that. The Royal Magistrator, I think is what it was. But Lawler, unlike Heenan, Lawler can draw. So Lawler always had some pretty good ones because he's kind of an artist and he could put up some pretty funny shit. And now apparently Pat McAfee has one too. And I don't think there's a better person to give a telestrator to than Pat McAfee. The absolute perfect guy. Keep that shit away from Cole or Graves or any of those guys. Give it to Pat and only Pat. We had Shinsuke Nakamura defeating Ludwig Kaiser. He earned a Intercontinental title shot next week, so we get Shinsuke and Gunther next week for the IC title. That should be really good. I'm really hoping that we get Gunther and Lashley at Survivor Series. That would just be fucking awesome. We had a Liv Morgan promo. So Liv Morgan comes out to talk about her match against Ronda at SummerSlam, and the fans kind of gave her a little bit of shit. They were booing her a little bit and chanting, you tapped out. Now, a lot of the feedback I saw regarding the Morgan and Rousey match at SummerSlam was kind of bad. A lot of people were saying they were surprised at the finish. Why didn't they give Liv the clean win? And I'm really surprised that I'm actually have a different view on this. But I feel like I'm really in the minority because most people that I saw all believed the same thing. They all felt the same way, that the way they booked the finish at SummerSlam harmed Liv Morgan. They turned out, and I didn't believe it, they turned out to be right based on the fans' reaction last night, because I heard a lot of people complaining about this the night of SummerSlam, and I'm like, in my mind, I almost had the opposite viewing of it. In my mind, as much as we love Liv Morgan, as much as it would be great for WWE to give a big win, to somebody who hasn't made it to the big time yet, or maybe had the big win or getting any sort of major recognition yet, hasn't held a title, that sort of thing, somebody that it could really elevate. As much as I agree with that would be great, I never thought that Liv Morgan was really, truly a real threat to Ronda Rousey's title. She cashed in at Money in the Bank and got the quick win after Rousey was hurt. Rousey showed no hard feelings and congratulated her. Then they do the match at SummerSlam, and in my mind going into the match, I was thinking that anything short of Liv Morgan being completely murdered by Ronda Rousey should be a moral victory for Liv Morgan. In my mind, all she had to do was survive. In my mind, all she had to do was leave that match with the title. Even if it took 10 women running in on her behalf, there's no part of me as a wrestling fan that believes Liv Morgan could beat Ronda Rousey in any sort of real match situation. Clean. I just didn't think that they would do that. So they did the spot where she pinned Ronda Rousey, but kind of tapped out at the same time, putting that little asterisk by that, also kind of protecting Rousey. Would it have been huge for Liv Morgan just to get the pinfall victory over Rousey? Sure. That's what a lot of fans felt like should have happened. That's the most common opinion I saw of this match, is why did they not have Liv just beat Ronda? Because Liv isn't good enough to beat Ronda. That's the way my opinion is of it. I'm no Ronda fan either. I think Ronda's run and return to the WWE has been largely boring. She seems to be going heel now, which is much better. I think Ronda will be great as a heel because fans naturally dislike her anyway. But still, she's still Ronda Rousey, and Liv Morgan is still Liv Morgan. And there wasn't any part of me as a wrestling fan that felt like Liv Morgan could beat Ronda Rousey. Should Liv Morgan have gotten the upset and made me a believer? Yeah, maybe. But I still don't think the finish that they did damaged Liv Morgan in any way. To me, her surviving a match with Ronda Rousey, keeping her title, and technically getting a win, tainted or not, to me is still good for Liv Morgan, but I think I'm one of the only ones that think that way. I think a lot of fans were turned off by the tap out, and they gave her a little bit of shit for it here, and a lot of fans were saying WWE mismanaged the booking of that match. And I just don't feel that way, but I feel like the fans have got more evidence than I do. I feel like the people that feel this way are right, and I'm wrong. I just didn't feel like the finish with Morgan and Rousey was bad. I was like, you know what? Liv didn't get beat, and she didn't get killed and tapped out in 5 seconds, and to me, that should be a moral victory for her, and she keeps her championship. So I saw nothing wrong with it, but a lot of other fans did, and that translated into her promo last night where she kind of got booed a little bit. Now, they did the angle, of course, at SummerSlam where Ronda attacked Liv Morgan, beat up all the referees so she could be suspended. Adding to what I was saying earlier is that, Liv Morgan really isn't a credible threat to Ronda Rousey's title. So if they did not do the suspension angle with Ronda, that means she'd still be on TV right now. And based on the finish that we saw at SummerSlam, that should warrant Rousey another rematch. But WWE doesn't want to do another rematch with Rousey and Morgan right now, because then they have to figure out another way for Morgan to beat Rousey. And I think they want to maybe save an absolute total clean win against Ronda for maybe when she leaves, or maybe next year against Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. I think they're saving that. I don't know if anybody's going to beat her clean until then. You might have some people get some wins against her, but maybe not beat her clean 1, 2, 3 in the middle. So I think that's largely in part why Ronda is off of TV right now. Number one, she's probably not going to be working full-time schedule, and she can be off TV for a while to let Liv Morgan face another challenger and then come back and do whatever the fuck she wants to do. Charlotte still needs to turn up at some point as well, don't forget. So they were going to have a gauntlet match to determine who's going to face Liv at Castlevania. And it was a match involving Natalya, Shotzi, Sonya Deville, Aaliyah and Xia Li. Now we saw Sonya Deville pick up a win in this gauntlet against Aaliyah, which I think it was Sean Ross Sapp had pointed out is Sonya Deville's first win on television in like 2 or 3 years, something insane, whatever it was. I don't have it written down next to me. It was either 2020 or 2019. It was like her last pinfall one-on-one victory on TV. That's a long fucking time ago, man. Unreal how long that's been. Hell, it's been 2 years since her hair match with Mandy at SummerSlam. So it's been a long time since Sonya got any wins. She did not win the gauntlet match, nor did she make it to the finals. The two people that made it to the finals was Raquel. The two that I did not mention earlier was Natalya, Shotzi, Sonya, Aaliyah, Xia Li, Shayna Baszler, and Raquel Rodriguez. Shayna and Raquel were the final two in the ring, two very strong former NXT Women's Champions, and Baszler got the win. How fucking awesome is that? Baszler basically got the win with a roll-up. She had the Kirifuda clutch on Raquel a couple of times, which Raquel was able to fight out of. But in the end, they traded a couple of pinning sequences there, and Shayna got the win over Raquel. And she now advances to face Liv, I guess, at Castlevania for the title. So good for Shayna. A lot of these women that we were doing a big pile of dick prior to Vince leaving, you feel a lot better about now. Shayna Baszler, it's like she hasn't even been there after that long run. I almost liked her NXT title run as more than I did Asuka, believe it or not. So many fans when she was champion were sick. She's holding the belt so long. I'm like, it's awesome. Let her hold the belt for 5 years for all I care. I don't give a shit. I don't get butthurt about that stuff. So I loved her run. I wanted her to hold it even longer, if you ask me. So I really, really liked her run. But as we've seen so many times with the NXT talent, when they get called up, it sucks once they get there. And Shayna was no different. So now under Triple H, maybe we can see, some of these women that are very good, getting some of the recognition and title shots that they deserve. So since Shayna has the history with Ronda Rousey, I could see that playing in at Clash at the Castle if they do bring Ronda all the way over there and she shows up and maybe attacks Morgan or attacks Shayna, or Shayna and Ronda team up. I don't know. But I think that there could be something involving, I think there's a reason why Shayna won this, and I think part of it is because of the tie-in with Ronda Rousey. So maybe the two of these MMA fighters are going to be coming after poor little Liv and getting to her. Didn't really watch much of the Viking Raiders shit. They came out, won a squash match, and then Kofi came out and wound up having a match with Eric after that he won, so that was all dumb. And then after that, we got to the Roman promo where he talked about McIntyre, and that's when we saw the return of Karrion Kross and all of that. So it was a week in professional wrestling, to say the very least. I mean, it started out crazy last weekend with SummerSlam 1 week ago today. Then we had Ric Flair's last match. Then we had, Monday Night Raw under the Triple H regime. Then we had a terrific Dynamite on Wednesday. Rampage was fun last night. Battle of the Belts goes live in less than an hour. It's been a great week, man. And tomorrow night here on the channel, we've got the Fully Loaded 2000 Watch-Along, and WWE is going to be running the Lex Luger doc on A&E. Wrestling. Not a bad time, like I said, to be a wrestling fan. I am really glad we made it through the rest of that with no more internet interruptions. I'm going to try to look at that and get a handle on that before tomorrow's watch-along, just so we don't go through any trouble there. I'm going to cruise over here to the chat, see if there's anything I need to knock out in terms of super chats and whatnot, and if there's any other comments in here that I need to get into before I take off. And again, I would just like to ask you guys to please smash that thumbs up button for me. And if you are not a subscriber, you should become one, because this is a cool place to be. Let me see. Are those cardboard cutouts, or what cardboard cutouts? Me? I'm real, man. Antoine Fair, good to see you, my man. Good. Welcome back. Thanks for the $2. Been a while, brother. How you doing? I'm doing great. I'm always doing great, man. Hope you are too. Things are always good in Gregland for the most part. I'm usually not mad. Sometimes. Population 420, good to see you as well. And welcome back. Appreciate the $2 from you. BLCK, what is new about MJF? We talked all about MJF just a little bit ago. You can scroll back and find that. The audio to this podcast will be pushed out to the main feed, but it won't be done until tonight after I get home from work, because I have to do a little bit of editing so I can crop out those little interruptions we had earlier. That way the people listening to it on the podcast sites aren't like, what the hell's going on here? So that will be up on the site later on, and I'll probably be cropping out, since I'm going to have a hard week this week at work. I'm not going to be here Monday night for a Raw review, and I'm also not going to be here for Wednesday. I'm going to be throwing some mic drops at you and a couple of other things, and pretty soon I'll be announcing a pretty big project that just got underway that I'm pushing for a holiday release. So you guys are the first ones to hear that. I have got to get out of here now because my crazy weekend continues. I want to thank everybody for being here. Really good audience today. Good to see that. Thanks for all the new subscribers that popped in. Thank you for the engagement. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the comments and the questions. And thank you for your patience as we dealt with a couple of those internet issues when we first started the stream here. So thank you very much for listening. Like I said, don't forget, tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, we are going to be here watching WWE Fully Loaded 2000 together. Really fun card, triple main event. Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, and Kurt Angle all getting big-time matches against 3 of WWE's top stars in The Rock, Triple H, and Undertaker, and it is one of my fondest pay-per-view memories ever, and I'm really, really looking forward to watching that with you guys tomorrow night. So you guys have a great, great rest of your Saturday. Appreciate you being here, and I will see you tomorrow for Fully Loaded. Y'all take care.